Unc Uja Seneb. Let me say welcome to each and every one of you. I'm Siwa Heru-Ka, a new leader of the Tanefa Ankh community. And I want to share a few thoughts with you on the subject of the Kemetic way of life in the just society, which I am saying is a system solution for black people. Here in North America, we Africans, people of African descent in North America, of course, uh, understand categorically that we live in a corrupt, backwards, racist, barbaric society that is both the enemy and antagonist to the health and welfare and the survival of black people. And the question is for us, is there a way for us to address the predicament that we are in? And the answer, of course, is yes. Of our community, the Tanefa Ankh community, we are using the example of our ancestors of ancient Kemet, Africa's third oldest civilization and the greatest society, that gives us a blueprint for addressing the issues of justice in the world. And so I'm going to share with you just some of the system that our folks used for establishing and maintaining the just society in the world. Our society, our ancient society, was guided by life forces called Neteru, from which we actually get the word nature. But in this just society, there's the concept of the life force, Ma'at. And Ma'at is the life force that is the embodiment of cosmic order and balance. And that means everything in its place. According to our ancestors, when the creator Atum created creation, the creator created and placed everything in its place, and everything having its particular role and function within creation. And that the responsibility of every living thing within creation was to maintain its role and function, to be in its place in order to keep balance and harmony throughout creation, and thus doing so, it would be life creating and life sustaining. From Ma'at, we also get the life force Asar. And Asar is the earth-centered life force that guides humanity in the way of Ma'at. In other words, Asar is the living word, is the law. The earthly law, the moral law, our moral code, and Asar gives us what we call Asar's decree that says, speak truth and do good. And that if each and every one of us engages in speaking truth and doing good, of course, then we would have a society that manifest the actions that we engage in, speaking truth and doing good. Hence, we would have an honest society, a society that is governed by moral law, a society that is consistent with Ma'at, that is cosmic order and balance and harmony. And also from Asar, we get the life force Heru, so that Heru is the force of truth, both persuasion and coercion. And what our ancestors have shared with us is that where truth is not installed, where cosmic order and balance is not installed, that we have the responsibility to put it in its place. And so the life force Heru, as the force of truth, is both persuasion and coercion. So that when we engage each other to do right, to speak truth, and to do good, we engage each other from a perspective of persuasion. And persuasion is rooted in sharing with each other information, appealing to each other's sense of morality, appealing to our intelligence, and other principled factors. However, when we are not able to convince one another to move in the direction of law, speaking truth and doing good, and or ma'at, being in harmony and balance and order, then we are caused to use coercion, often force. So that it means that, for example, like with your child, when you are talking with your child and you are encouraging your child to do the right thing, you tend to appeal to your child's sense of right and wrong. And then when your child does not respond to the right and wrong, then you follow with force or coercion, punishment of some sort, or even the threat of punishment. And so the force of truth is important. So what we see in the Kemetic society was that these principles governed that society and maintained that society for over 4,000 years. So we have a system that we can look to and appeal to and use today in guiding how we deal with our particular situation. Here we are in a society that we know that has absolutely no intention of the success and the establishment of the health and welfare of black people. And I'm talking about a society that is dominated by white people who are governed by what we define as conquest pathology and racism psychopathology. And I would encourage you to look for another video short that I will do on this particular topic that actually explains that in detail. So in this environment that we live in, we are saying that the Kemetic way of life offers us a system for addressing our particular plight, and that system is based in Ma'at, the principles of Ma'at, Heru, and Asar. So how do we address this? So for ourselves, we realize that we need to embrace these principles to govern our own selves for both our community, our internal interactions with each other, as well as our external interactions with each other. So Ma'at sets the standard for what we should seek, cosmic order and balance, as well as Asar sets the standard, moral law, speak truth and do good. We are now plagued with violence against our communities, not just now, but I mean it's been consistent in that racism itself is an act of violence. It is maintained in violence and or in the threat of violence. And then in order to deal with racism, what we realize is that we must use coercion, force, in order to address it. And so I give you the example of the African societies, African communities on the continent of Africa and around the world in dealing with racism. And one of the things that you will find is that not a single African nation or territory came into independence or peace with white people peacefully. Not one. Not in South Africa, not in North Africa, not in East Africa, not in West Africa, not in Central Africa. Every one of them had to resort to force in order to do so. And even among white people, as they have gone to battle with each other, white people have oppressed, white people. And so those white people who sought freedom from the oppression of white people have had to resort to force. And I'm contending here that we must do the same. Now, for ourselves, how do we use the principles of our ancestors in governing our behavior? On the community level, there's the need to embrace the principles of Asar, speak truth and do good. And we should do that with each other, black person to black person, black family to black family, black community to black community. And that this should be the standard that we uphold among each other. And when we are doing that, we, of course, are fostering life-centered relationships with each other. However, where we are not, where we have folks who are criminal in their behavior and are not upholding that, it is important that we use coercion with each other. Now, when we talk about coercion in our community and using force, how should force look in our community? And I think it should look something like this. When we look at how our societies initially maintained force, they did it through what today is known as martial arts. That is physical force against a physical person, not weapons, but actually the human physical force, using the human body to coerce each other. And so our people were the first to actually use martial arts as a way of causing folks within the community to stay within the bounds of moral law. And I think martial arts has its place, for us as a policing force to prevent those who would and conduct and maintain criminal behavior within our communities. And then there are weapons, and weapons should be light weapons that are used for those who are using weapons and pose a lethal threat to folks within our communities. But I also am saying that our communities should be policed by ourselves. No people outside of our communities should be policing our communities, simply because we who are in our communities have our communities at heart. We know what we want for our communities. We want the best of for our communities, whereas many others who in policing our communities do not necessarily have our best interests at heart, as we are seeing now with the violence perpetrated by police departments and state-sponsored terrorism against our communities. And then, of course, there is the force that we should have that protects us against external threats to our community. And of course, we have a persistent threat against our communities, and that is white racism, the war for white supremacy and white domination. And in this particular respect, weaponry is important. Martial arts will not be sufficient in addressing this. And so we should have tactical use of weapons in protecting and defending our communities. As it stands right now, we do not have in our community standing armies, and it's one of the things that we should actually bring about. Standing armies for a community would look like a community that comes together and trains its members to use weaponry, and having a specific portion of that community trained specifically to fight on behalf of that community in times of need. We have gun clubs that are forming, and they are necessary. We have examples where we've attempted to pull together standing armies to protect our community. Honorable Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, for example, created a standing army to protect our community. The Nation of Islam, for example, created the FOI, the Fruit of Islam, as a standing army, as a protective force to defend the black community inside and out. And so did the Black Panther Party when it took up arms to protect the community against the terrorism of the state-sponsored terrorism using police and other forces. But not only should we have standing armies, and let me say something about this, because I know some of us will contend, well, there's no way that we can win if white folks decide to bring their full military capacity against us. And that may be true. Whether that is true or not, one of the things that we can say is this: you look around the world at any group of people, any country, any nation of people who are serious about their survival and development, and you will find that they all have standing armies. And they don't say to themselves, oh, well, the U.S. or Russia or China has the capacity to defeat our countries militarily, so therefore we should not have a standing army. No, they develop a standing army because they also know that you do what you can so as to protect and defend yourself. And it sends a message to other people that you will do what it takes to protect and defend yourself. And though we may not be as successful in using a standing army, we also need tactical forces to do special types of services on behalf of our community. What do I mean by that? We know that in this country we are persistently attacked by white people, whether it's under the color of law or whether it's groups such as the Klan or White Citizens Council or whatever types of groups. And we do need a tactical force that has the capability of defending and also administering justice. And I mean by administering justice is actually seeking out those that do harm to our community and taking necessary action against those folks. We see it used around the world. Tactical forces, for example, that are used in the way of snipers. We need people who are trained, who can individually and or in small groups, 2, 3, able to use force on our behalf so that we are able to administer justice where we cannot get justice from those who are attacking us. So that it's important for us to look at the system of the Kemetic way of life, to look at what our ancestors did in maintaining their societies, because of course they had problems from within. They created a justice system to address those problems from within, and they had problems from without. That is, people that invaded their societies, and they created systems to address that. And I am encouraging you to take a look at the Kemetic way of life and the system for justice that we can use for ourselves. We have great examples for it. And I'm also encouraging you, visit our website, our community's website at taneferank.com. That's www.taneferank.com, taneferank.com, where we have some information about who we are and what we are doing to create community, to liberate ourselves, to free ourselves from the oppression, white domination in this country, and to bring ourselves into a state of independence and self-reliance as a people. So I hope you will find this short presentation of value to you. Again, visit our website at taneferank.com, and also if you want to be in touch with us, you can write to us at life@taneferank.com, as well as you can speak with us directly by giving us a call at 443-453-3010. And again, I hope you find this of value to you. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to you actually taking on this information and using it to empower our communities and to protect our communities from the onslaught of racism and criminal behavior. And so to you, I'll say have a wonderful and beautiful day. Ankh Uja Seneb, which means life, prosperity, and health.